And I assume you want to start talking about the Hunter Biden story. So,
Let's do it.
okay. By now, I hope everyone has seen this New York Post article. Should we go? We should go over what the story is.
Despite their best efforts.
Right. Despite their best efforts, here's the New York Post article. Biden's secret emails. I'm not going to read the whole article, but an overview of the article. Basically, here's what happened. There was a store, a computer repair store, that allegedly Hunter Biden, who's Joe Biden's son, allegedly Hunter Biden dropped off his laptop to have data recovered. I guess there was water damage or something, theoretically, or allegedly. And he dropped it off and never came to pick it up. And so the repair shop person, he ended up making a copy of the hard drive, and actually, allegedly, the FBI has subpoenaed the laptop, so he doesn't have it anymore. So he made a copy of this hard drive, and he looked through it, and he found a bunch of stuff. Now, again, I'll allege it. I guess theoretically he could be a Photoshop expert and have made an entire hard drive of data, but no one says that about anything else, like the Steele dossier. So, okay. So you've got all this data. Rudy Giuliani's lawyer was eventually given it. And
by the way, the FBI, he gave it to the FBI a year ago.
Right, but
they did nothing.
Well, as much as I hate the FBI and would like to agree with you, if they are doing an investigation, they should say we can't confirm or deny. I mean, they can't. They shouldn't be saying what they're doing. So I'll be angry at them later for doing nothing, but I'm still going to give them a. But here's a copy. Here's a copy of the subpoena. He wants where they get the laptop. I mean, so he gave copies of this stuff to back up what he was saying. And of course, the hard drive had some salacious stuff. It had some normal stuff like Hunter and his kids and whatever. But it had pictures, allegedly some. I haven't looked, but I guess there's some sexually suggestive or porn pictures or something. There's Hunter Biden with what looks like a crack pipe sleeping. But the biggest political scandal of this is, if you'll recall, Hunter Biden was on the board of a Ukrainian gas company called Burisma. This has been in the news a lot. And the allegations from the right were that Joe Biden used his influence as vice president to help shut down the investigation of Burisma by the state prosecutor in the Ukraine who was investigating Burisma, and that Hunter Biden, who was paid $50,000 a month to sit on the board, was really just being paid so that the company Burisma could get to Joe Biden to get the favor from Joe Biden of firing the state prosecutor who was going after them. So that was the allegation. And Joe Biden has been saying, never talked to my son about any of this stuff, never talked to him about his business dealings overseas. That's a lie. I never met anyone from the company, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so that's the and you know, fake news. Washington Post in 2019 wrote a huge article about, you know, there's no evidence for this, and Joe's never done this, and blah, 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 blah. Okay. Well, on this computer, there's an email from this guy whose name I'm going to butcher, Vadim Porjarsky. Who cares? This
just
guy.
D.
What? VP.
Yeah,
Mr. VP from this company, Burisma. And he says, "Dear Hunter, thank you for inviting me to DC and giving me an opportunity to meet with your father and spend some time together. It's really an honor and pleasure. As we spoke yesterday evening, would be great to meet today for quick coffee. What do you think? I could come to your office somewhere around noon or so before or on my way to the airport." There's also other emails referencing asking for some help and blah, blah, blah. So, but that's one of the smoking gun emails.
And then there's also, Daniel Keene says there are pictures of Joe Biden on a golf course with Hunter Biden and some of the Burisma executives.
Right. So we know
board members.
Yeah. So we know that. Yeah. Thank you. So we know that Joe Biden did lie. He said he'd never met him, never talked to Hunter about the company, blah, blah, blah. That's not true. We know that's not true. Now, there's a bunch, we can talk about some of the arguments against this and blah, 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 but
what
the news is what happened to this story. This is the New York Post.
The news is what happened. So this, much like some of the other stories we've talked about, it's not really about Biden or Trump. If that's the only level of analysis that you're looking at, you are missing the story. And if you're so blinded by hatred of Trump that you can't look at the real story, that you get confused and you think this is about Trump and Biden, you're way down here. Right. You're way down here.
It's not about
this story. It's not about that. This story is about the way that social media, big social, colludes to manipulate the news, to manipulate us, to censor what we're allowed to see and read, the information we're allowed to have. They're acting as our moral and intellectual betters. They're telling us what we're allowed to have access to. Like Sean Lennon says, this is Stalinist tactics that they're engaging in against American citizens.
Yep.
And they're colluding. They're doing it together. Facebook and Twitter together said.
Well, let's talk about what they did. Let's talk about what they did.
We're going to block the story.
Yep. So Andy, here's a tweet from Andy Stone, who is here. I'll put it up on the screen. Sorry. Here's a tweet from Andy Stone. Andy Stone is communications at Facebook. He's a communications person at Facebook. He writes, this is the day the story comes out. Again, came out in the Washington Post. They have a copy of the files, right? While I will intentionally not link to the New York Post. Did I say Washington Post? I meant New York Post. While I will intentionally not link to the New York Post, I want to be clear that this story is eligible to be fact-checked by Facebook's third-party fact-checking partners. Okay, fine. In the meantime, this is the devastating part. In the meantime, we are reducing its distribution on our platform. Okay, amazing. So here's a story that came out. There is actual evidence. It is, regardless of what you think about crack pipes or dealings with Burisma or whether Joe Biden did or did not help out this company or anything, regardless of what you think about any of that, you cannot deny the political importance of this story during an election, right? The Democrats keep saying it's during the election has started. Okay, this is politically relevant on a massive scale. This is relevant. What are they doing? Facebook is intentionally reducing its distribution, i.e., they are adjusting the narrative so that you don't hear about potentially damaging political information about Joe Biden. Twitter.
And Twitter, let's talk about how Twitter did the same thing. But first, again, I want to point out, and you guys know this if you're watching this show, it doesn't matter what you think of Trump or Biden. This is not a story about Trump or Biden. This is a story about the elite, the gatekeepers, social media, big social, and the legacy media, and a particular political party in this case. But it could have just, if it were going the other way, imagine if it were something that were negative about Trump. And
imagine if they suppressed the Steele dossier, the tax returns, everything, but they let the Biden thing through.
Right. Which, by the way, the Steele dossier, that's a can of, let's not even get into that. The Steele dossier is a bunch of bullcrap.
Right.
And they ran it. They ran the accusations against Kavanaugh, the baseless accusations against Kavanaugh. And there were more of them coming out of the woodwork every day that were even more baseless. Each new one was more ridiculous. And they ran it as fact. They ran baseless rumors as fact. They've ignored Tara Reade. They look at something like this where there's more evidence, and they say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't." First, I heard them say that we can't let you guys see this because it's just allegations and there's not enough evidence. Well, that's what I first heard them say. And you're like, wait, back up, because you guys ran a story just a month ago, about how Trump called veterans and troops suckers and losers. Was that sourced? Was there evidence? No, not one named source, completely anonymous. And you ran it front page news nonstop. to the degree where it's taken as verbatim truth on social media now. You know, people with TDS who are running around saying Trump said this. Yeah, who said that? Who said that he said that on record? Who? No one. They ran it as fact. They run anything as fact that they think helps the narrative and the outcome that they want. Yep. And then they take stuff like this and they say, oh, there's not enough evidence. And when people point it out, it's a hard drive. There's photos. There's emails.
There's probably terabytes of evidence. Yeah.
There's terabytes of it. We can look at it with our own eyes, okay? And then what do they say? Then I heard the next justification that I heard was, well, okay, there might be evidence, but we don't like the way that it was obtained, that it was it was hacked. We don't like the way it was obtained. Okay, what about the way that Trump's taxes were obtained? You ran that. You ran that, actually, and that's become such a part of the narrative. But even in the town hall last night, they asked Trump about the taxes question. They're fine with it.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the taxes. So Trump is saying that the numbers are wrong on the taxes, but assuming that the taxes are correct, this is accurate. That is an illegal leak of information. It's illegal to do that. Someone illegally leaked the taxes. This crap. The guy, Hunter, left the computer there. I imagine when you drop off your computer, you sign a thing, kind of like when you go to a pawn shop or whatever. Like, it becomes their property if you don't pick it up. That's generally how that stuff works. This isn't even illegally obtained. This isn't even illegal. This is just, maybe he fell asleep with his crack pipe and forgot about his laptop. I don't know. But he left it there. He left it. This is not even illegal. This isn't hacked. That's a lie. That's a lie. This is not hacked.
And even if it's not hacked, but if it were,
and it
were damaging to Trump, they would run it. They would run it with less information. They wouldn't even feel a need to show you the stuff on the laptop. They would just tell you, trust us, here's what's on it.
Yes.
Double standard, it should be insulting to you. And it doesn't matter. Again, I don't care what you think about Trump. You can hate him. You don't have to vote for him. But if this doesn't insult your intelligence, you are not paying attention. And if it doesn't give you pause and give you concern about where we're heading in this country, you're not paying attention. Because if you're the kind of person who says, okay, I'm cool with censorship and mass manipulation, and I'm cool with propaganda because I think it's currently benefiting my quote unquote side, you can't look 2 steps down the road to, what about when it's not benefiting your side? What kind of culture, what kind of country are we becoming? You're okay with this? Like, I don't understand you. And you're not a liberal. You're not a liberal if you support this. You should be outraged.
I'm sorry. I'm laughing because sinister looking kid in chat says, it's illegal to read the New York Post. I could totally hear Cuomo saying that on CNN.
Yeah. Well, look, Chris Cuomo, who went on CNN and told us, it's illegal for you to read WikiLeaks emails. Leave that to us, the media. It's different for us. Let us tell you what to think about it. BS. It wasn't illegal. It's not illegal for you to read that information. But that's one of the few times, I'm so glad he did that, because that's one of the few times they told you what they really think, which is, we are here to tell you what to think. We are here to tell you what information you're allowed to look at and to steer you towards what we think is the best outcome, because we are your intellectual and moral betters.
Yep.
Like, get in line, sheep. Pull the lever the way we want you to. It's so insulting.
Carrie, I was telling you before the show, as much as I generally don't care about politics, they are making me care about politics in a massive way, because this is so angering, because it is so blatant and it's so antithetical to the ideas that are necessary for a free society. If this crap is let to continue, it's not hyperbole to say that we'll be living in a Stalin-esque or a Chinese authoritarian version. Like, that is what will happen. That is what will happen. Well, I mean, we're entering it.
Begun.
But yeah.
Yes, it's already begun. And I don't know if it can be pulled back.
Right.
Unless liberals open their freaking eyes.
Right. And this is what people, when we say the cathedral, this is what we mean. And this is one of those examples that, you should be able to put your partisanship aside and look at this and recognize objectively the manipulation and bias that is happening here. And we just mentioned what Facebook did. Facebook reduced its distribution. Twitter banned, first of all, they banned posting links to the article completely. They banned posting links. You could not link to a New York Post article. They then banned New York Post. They shut down New York Post account. It's back, but they suspended New York Post's account. They suspended Kayleigh McEnany's, the White House press secretary's account for linking to the article. They suspended the White House press secretary Twitter account for linking to a New York Post article, and they suspended the New York Post. Do you get that? Do you get that? Is that not clear?
They put the article up on a government website, and then they blocked that. They blocked the link to our own government's site with information. You can't read it.
Yes, and then they had the audacity. This even pisses me off on top of it all. So obviously they got some pushback for this. Not enough, but some. And Jack, our beloved Jack Dorsey, CEO of Twitter, his apology looks like this. His apology it's a non-apology. Anyone who's had to have like a spouse or someone apologize, or a kid, it's one of those apologies that like the kid makes that he doesn't want to apologize and he's hoping it counts. Our communication around our actions on the New York Post article was not great. You don't say. By the way,
hold on.
He's saying our communication around our actions. Not our actions,
so,
just our communication.
Not the actions.
Right.
Right. He's fine with censoring and blocking and telling you what you have a right to read.
Right.
It's just the way in which he communicated it to the sheep. I didn't paint it on the barn wall the right way.
Yes.
Let me paint it a different way.
I used the wrong color. And blocking URL sharing via tweet or DM with zero context. Oh, it's the lack of context as to why we're blocking is unacceptable. So basically he's saying, I'm sorry I didn't explain to you why we were doing this. Not I'm sorry I did this. He's not at all sorry for blocking this at all. He's sorry for failing to use words that would make you shut up when he blocked it, because the words he used didn't make you shut up. Now, my favorite response to this is from Ted Cruz. Have you seen this letter?
No.
Ted Cruz's letter is phenomenal. Ted Cruz gets brownie points for this letter. I'm not going to read the whole letter, but he basically says, please provide, this is to Jack, please provide the following information immediately to the Subcommittee on the Constitution. 1. Who made the decision to prevent users from sharing the story? On what basis did they make that decision? 2. When was the New York Post made aware of Twitter's decision, and what process was afforded to it to contest the censorship? 3. Has Twitter prevented the New York Times, Washington Post, or any other major news outlet from posting its own reporting? If so, when? 4. This is my favorite one. My favorite one's 4. If Twitter did not prevent BuzzFeed from sharing its reporting on the Steele dossier or the New York Times reporting on President Trump's tax returns, please explain a politically neutral principle for why the reporting is treated differently. They cannot.
I love you, Ted Cruz.
They cannot. And he's got a few more. Has Twitter ever restricted a story published by a major news outlet about Donald J. Trump during his 4 years as president? Has Twitter or any of its employees involved in the decision to censor this reporting been in contact in any capacity with the Biden-Harris campaign or any of its representatives regarding the reporting or allegations contained herein? Great response from Cruz. Twitter's response this morning is this. Vijaya Gad, she was the one, I think, who appeared on Joe Rogan, sitting next to Jack Dorsey. She's the lawyer.
Oh, gosh. She's awful.
Yeah, she's awful. She says, over the last 24 hours, we've received significant feedback, from critical to supportive, about how we enforced our...
Look, I like they throw that in as if that matters. Hey, guys, some people supported slavery. Hey, guys, some people supported what happened in Nazi Germany.
Right.
Oh, some people supported this censorious action of ours. They supported tyranny and oppression.
Right. She's trying to make it sound neutral.
I just want to let you know, some people support
it's just
this
a difference of
immoral
opinion.
and ethical action. It's an immoral and ethical action, but, you know, some people supported it.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, that I think that's the same defense that Charles Manson can use. Well, some people in my group supported it. Uh, okay. this we've received significant feedback about how we enforced our hacked materials policy yesterday. After reflecting on this feedback, we've decided to make changes to the policy and how we enforce it. Oh, good. Too little, too late. Let's see what they say. Why the changes? We want to address the concerns that there could be many unintended consequences to journalists, whistleblowers, and others in ways that are contrary to Twitter's purpose of serving the public conversation. More bullshit. We put the hacked materials policy in place back in 2018 to discourage and mitigate harms associated with... Harms is the worst word. I hate when people use this word nowadays. Harms associated with hacks and other and unauthorized exposure of private information. We tried to find the right balance between people's privacy and the right of free expression, but we can do better. Yeah, like tax returns. We would never publish, for example, the president's tax returns if they were hacked illegally, right? We've recently added new product capabilities, such as labels, to provide people with additional context. We are no longer limited to tweet removal as an enforcement action. We believe that labeling tweets and empowering people to assess content for themselves better serves the public interest and public conversation. The hacked material policy is being updated to reflect these new enforcement capabilities. So what's changing? 1, we'll no longer remove hacked content unless it is directly shared by hackers or those acting in concert with them. 2, we will label tweets to provide context instead of blocking links from being shared. So this is their fallback position. So their fallback position is, well, you caught us. We can't actually stop you from seeing it. Plus, they probably realize there's a bit of a Streisand effect. So instead, what we're going to try and do is get out in front of the narrative and frame the thing that you see before you click on it. We want to make sure we can frame it. So in front of tweets like this, we'll say, this is fake news, it's probably wrong. And in front of Trump tax returns or Steele dossiers, we won't say anything.
We won't say anything. In fact, we'll use more aggressive, we'll use manipulative language to make it seem like fact. And you know what? They do that. Look at the 2 town halls last night. Look at all the questions, the ridiculous questions they asked Trump about stuff that's been debunked, that's fake, and stuff that they've put out there that there's an obvious double standard. Like they asked him about the taxes, right? Okay. Did they ask Joe Biden a single question about the New York Post story or Hunter Biden and his dealings with Ukraine and Burisma? Not one question.
No.
Not one question.
No, they didn't.
I'm going to try and bring it down. I'm yelling. I realize it.
No. No, I mean, yeah, and that's why I think I said this last night I was watching the Joe Biden one first, because I was really curious. Did Twitter succeed? Did they quash the story enough that no one would ask a question about Hunter Biden? And they did. So victory for Jack. No one asked. And we can get into the town halls later, but one of the things that struck me most about the town halls was that the first 20 minutes of the Trump town hall was just him arguing with Savannah Guthrie. It was not questions from the audience at all. It was just like a reporter yelling at Trump. But okay, so all this happened. Here's Twitter's thing.
But to that point, let me just underline what you're saying here. They create this false reality that some people choose to live in. They have the power to do that. They don't have to they don't have to make sure the story doesn't come out anymore. If there is some intrepid journalist who's going to break a story that the cathedral doesn't like, that big social media and the legacy media don't like, if somebody breaks a story, all they have to do is keep it from populating social media, and then they have the illusion of this not being real news. And then you go to something like a town hall or a debate, and you have these mouthpieces for the cathedral there acting as moderators, these legacy media people sitting there, and they participate in this delusion, in this false reality, as if this didn't happen, as if this news story didn't come out, as if we don't have questions about and shouldn't have questions about Biden's dealings with Ukraine. And now we're living in a Orwellian dystopian novel, and it's I don't know.
I think Orwell and Huxley and Bradbury, they all collaborated on modern script. But
And is it amazing though? Is it amazing the people in your life that you know who are asleep the zombies, the people who are just sleepwalking and getting pumped full of the propaganda every day. And
But I think that's most people. Most people are living their lives, doing their thing, and it doesn't make. See, this is the thing: the cable newsrooms don't cover it because it's not on Twitter, and so it doesn't become a story. So it doesn't get covered in cable. Like people don't get you. People don't get this information. They just don't. It does work. The suppression does work, and as Scott Adams has pointed out, if you can't suppress, then be the first to frame the narrative, which is what Twitter's backup policy is here. This is what Vijaya is saying. Like, okay, well, I guess we can't censor, but don't worry, left. We'll frame it. We'll frame it for people so that we still at least control the narrative as best we can.